You're preparing me for greater. Thank you for the shaking. Thank you for the beating. Thank you for the pressing. Because I know my greater is coming. My greater is coming. You're pulling me through. And you're preparing me. You're preparing me for greater. Oh, my greater. My greater is already here. My greater is already here. Oh, walking into a new season. Oh, it's a new season. Oh, deliverance is here. Oh, it's already here. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. It's time for you to speak what you want to see. And if you're with it, then repeat after me. Come on. Every time I turn around, blessings, blessings. Every time I turn around, blessings on blessings. Every time I turn around, blessings, blessings. Yeah, every time I turn around, blessings on blessings. Hey. Yes, sir. I see blessings, blessings. There will be blessings on blessings. Oh, yeah. I see blessings, blessings. Yeah, yeah. There will be blessings on blessings. The favor of the Lord must upon me. In my hands, I have more than enough. Surely goodness and mercy is following me, and my God will supply every one of my needs. Say it. Oh, yes it is. Yeah, yeah, got more than enough. Yeah, it's following me, and my God will. Yes, He will.
Start this week.
See blessings, blessings. Hey, there will be blessings on blessings.
Yep.
Oh,
Start this way. I was trying to start this. I'm a Paul guy.
blessings. Yeah. There will be blessings on blessings.
Oh, that's not a great.
In my hands, yeah. Yeah. Oh, more than enough. Surely. Yes, sir. It's following me. He will supply. You gotta pay the favor. I hear y'all singing. In my hands, I got. You got everything you need, say. It's following me, yeah. Every single one of my needs.
So, you know what, we're going to make ourselves comfortable and spread out a little bit. How about that? So, I'm supposed to be fine.
How you doing?
But,
No,
but
I'm cool.
I guess if everyone has shown up.
Hello, hello.
So if someone else shows up, then we'll.
Okay. Thank you for the
If
work.
someone else shows
Appreciate
up. Hi, how are
James
you?
Harvey speaks real fast, so y'all got to have your fingers ready.
I'm probably Floyd's speaker.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hello, how are you?
You got that southern draw.
I got that southern drum.
Okay, are you doing signage?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Brother who's 2 years older than me is he's a hearing impairment. So yeah,
Been a while
we
since
all
I've
with
been
white patients. He was there because of the program.
Did you?
He is. No, he's so but he can hear some, but he reads lips extraordinarily well, and but he has no sign language. Yes, and all this sort of stuff. So Craig Robinson, we graduated back in the 80s. So yeah, so it's helpful. So thank you.
it. Frank, Fan. Who else? I thought they said that they all agreed to come. But that's okay. Look, I ain't been coming, so.
Hey, you gotta let it shine a little bit. Catch the light.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the Midtown campus of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. Just to let me know, those of y'all who are in the room, if you're alive, will you clap your hands? And we're grateful as well for those who are joining us via the World Wide Web. If you are on Facebook or if you subscribe to a channel on YouTube, I would that you would, even in this space, take a moment and go to the Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church Facebook page or YouTube channel and share this stream with others who need to be here, who need to be informed, and need to be a part of this discussion that is critically important to the direction of our city. I am Reverend Dr. J. Lawrence Turner. I'm the senior pastor of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and we're grateful to have you here on our campus. We're grateful as well for the partnership of the organization that I lead, the Black Clergy Collaborative of Memphis, as well as the Social Justice Ministry of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church, and the partnership of Up the Vote 901, as well as the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Memphis chapter. Will you clap your hands for all of our partners who made this evening possible? As a church, we don't endorse any particular candidate, but we do want to make sure we create an environment where substantive dialogue can take place so that we can be an informed electorate and can share in knowing what each candidate represents and what their platforms are. And so I'm hoping and I'm praying that you will pay close attention to what's shared on this evening. Before I introduce our moderator for this evening's discussion, will you bow your heads with me in a word of prayer? God of grace and God of glory, we praise you and we magnify your name. We are grateful for those who offer themselves to serve in public office. Grateful for them extending their lives and their families, and we pray your blessings upon them as they continue to campaign, to participate in this democratic process. God, we pray for the city of Memphis. We pray for its welfare. We pray for its future. And we pray, God, that your plans for our city will come to fruition. And if that is to take place, it's not only on the citizenry, but it's also upon those who will lead us. So God, on this evening, grant us the attention span that we need to hear that which will help us to become an informed electorate. We pray that our proceedings on this evening will be done decently and in order and will bring glory and honor to your name. And we ask all of these blessings in the name of the one who gives us the audacity to hope. It is in the name of Jesus that I do pray. And all of God's people said, amen. It gives me a great privilege to introduce our moderator for this evening's discussion, who joined the News Channel 3 team in 1992, started her news career at a radio station in Griffin, Georgia, before moving to television stations in Montgomery and Huntsville, Alabama. Along with her investigative reporting duties, she anchors News Channel 3 at 4 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So I know you're going to pray for her because she's just coming off the air on this evening to be with us tonight. She was presented the Tennessee School Board Association's Award of Excellence in Education for her reporting. She grew up in Atlanta and earned her degree in broadcast journalism at the University of Georgia and her master's degree in business finance at the University of Memphis. When she's away from work, she enjoys golfing, biking, gardening, and reading. She also makes time for community service through Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and the River City, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated. When people ask her what she likes best about Memphis, she doesn't hesitate to say, the people. Will you join me in welcoming our moderator for this evening's discussion, April Thompson? Will you clap your hands as she comes?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, Pastor Turner, for that introduction. It is a pleasure to be here and to serve as your moderator this evening. This is an important occasion. We have an important election coming up. And give yourselves a hand for being here tonight because you're interested. They talk about our voter turnout in Shelby County, and what we want you to do is to get information tonight and then share that information with someone. Share it with your family, share it with your neighbors, those who can't make it out tonight, and you'll have other opportunities to meet these candidates. So use this as an opportunity to learn as much as you can so we can all be informed voters. Amen? Amen. You know how important that is. It is a pleasure for me to be here, and as your moderator, they have given me the task of announcing what the rules are, because you know, in order to have order in any occasion, you have a set of rules, and we do have rules that we will follow tonight. We have a lot to get in a short amount of time. As far as the forum rules, each candidate will make a 2-minute opening statement. The order has been determined by the drawing of lots, and that did occur before this meeting. We also have a timekeeper. Is our timekeeper here? Okay. Our timekeeper will hold up signs signaling 30 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and will stand with stop when time is up. And candidates are expected to respect and comply with the time limits. After the opening statements, the moderator, myself, will begin asking the questions, and we do ask that applause be held until the end of the forum. That will leave time for more of the questions. Now, the questions that we are asking have been determined before this event, and they are printed on cards organized by category. I will ask all of the questions. The first round of questioning, there will be a lightning round, and that is yes or no answers to the questions. The candidates will answer yes or no simultaneously using cards with the words yes or no printed on them. If the candidate needs to explain their yes or no answer, they should work that explanation into the timed questions and answer session. After the lightning round, I will ask questions, the Q&A, and the candidates will be limited to 1-minute answers so they can address as many questions as possible. And the questions are going to be directed to candidates in rotation so that everyone gets a chance to respond first to the questions. We may have some follow-up questions that I will ask, but we're encouraged to restrict any follow-up questions, and the candidates, we're asking them not to respond to each other. Rebuttals will not be allowed. And each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Those are the ground rules for tonight. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates that are with us. And we're not using positions, we're just going by Ms. and Mr. Mr. Paul Young, you want to stand or wave? Mr. Reggie Hall, Mr. Floyd Bonner, Ms. Michelle McKissick, Mr. J.W. Gibson, and Mr. James Harvey. Thank you to all of the candidates for being here. Now, we did have one candidate who did confirm, and you may have heard or been told that she was going to be here, and that is Ms. Karen Camper. As you are aware, we lost one of our state representatives this week. He passed away recently, State Representative Bill Beck. He was a good friend of hers, and she is attending his services. So she does apologize that she did respond that she would be here, but she could not be here tonight. And our prayers are with that family. At this time, we will begin our opening statements, and we will begin with Mr. Paul Young.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the hosts for this amazing event. How many of y'all are happy to be Memphians? All right, good. I am running for mayor because I love Memphis. This is an amazing city with an amazing soul. And we've had some challenging times lately, but I still am doubled down on this city. I'm a born and raised Memphian. I grew up in the Oak Haven area, graduated from East High School, went to college at the University of Tennessee. I had this spiritual moment when I moved back at church, which is the Healing Center, led by my late father, Bishop William Young, and Pastor Diane Young. And my mom was preaching a sermon. She was talking about the purpose-driven life. I had this degree in electrical engineering, and I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And when she was doing this sermon, I felt like it was just me and her in the room. When she was talking, she said that God's purpose for your life will never be about you. God's purpose for your life will always be about someone else. I took that and I applied it to my life. I immediately enrolled in city and regional planning at the University of Memphis, where I wanted to focus on rebuilding neighborhoods and communities throughout this city. And that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years. I am running for mayor because it's a part of my purpose. I believe that Memphis is still on the way. We're still on the way up. We have a lot of hope. We have a lot of optimism for our future. I am going to be the mayor that's going to restore safety in our communities, that's going to clean up our neighborhoods, that's going to strengthen our economy, that's going to invest deeply in our youth, that's going to invest in a thriving arts and culture scene, and going to connect it all with transportation, high-quality transportation and infrastructure. If you want to find out more, go to youngfrommemphis.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Reggie Hall.
First, giving honor and praise to God, who's the head of my life. My name is Reggie Hall, lifelong Memphian. Everybody calls me Hall. I come today and I get a chance to share the stage with so many remarkable people. And when I come to forums or debates, it's like an interview process. And we all will give our resumes today in this interview process. Now, everyone up here has a remarkable, impeccable resume. Three people up here that I really adore. One came out of North Memphis, educated herself, married a great guy, had an awesome son that graduated from an Ivy League school with a degree in finance. Another candidate that I really adore came out of South Memphis like myself, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, has a wonderful family, and became a businessman and entrepreneur extraordinaire. And last, another guy that really caught my eye that I really adore, the son of two pastors, husband to a beautiful wife, and two wonderful children. And on top of that, he has the nerve to be a noob. But tonight, my resume is going to have one word on it other than my name, and it's going to say servant. Because my whole life, I've been a servant. I've been a humble and faithful servant to God Almighty, my Lord and Savior. I've been a loving servant to my family, my relatives, and my community. And I have been a proud servant of my country. So whenever you need leadership, ring the bell, and I come and serve leadership. If you need counseling, ring the bell, and I come running with counseling. But the main thing that I love to serve is accountability, because we lack accountability in our city, and that's what Memphis needs. You need a mayor that's going to be accountable, and I will be the most accountable mayor that Memphis has ever had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Floyd Bonner.
Good evening. Thank you all for attending today. My name is Floyd Bonner, and in case you don't know me, let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Orange Mound in Westwood. I attended Hillcrest High School, where I graduated from. I attended the University of Memphis and received a degree in criminal justice. I've been in law enforcement for 42 years, and currently I'm your sheriff. But that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight because I want to be the next mayor of the city of Memphis. We have so many great things that are going on here in Memphis, so many opportunities now, but we're in danger of losing it all if we don't get crime under control. So there are a few issues front and center on my agenda. First of all is to reduce crime will be my #1 priority, to invest in our youth, to clean up our city with blight, the issues that we're having with blight, and then create jobs and economic development. You know, I've said that a safe city is a prosperous city. Memphis is growing. Blue Oval is nearby. We have so many great opportunities. I want to be that next mayor to lead Memphis into the next few years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bonner. Ms. Michelle McKissick.
Good evening, everyone, and to all of those who are watching online, and thank you to the organizers for this forum. It's my 8th such forum since I announced that I was running for mayor of Memphis. And after going around the city and speaking with everyday Memphians, just like myself, born and raised right here in Memphis, they're telling me that it's time for a change. And I keep hearing 3 things. 1, I feel unsafe, I feel forgotten, and I feel ignored. Just a few weeks ago, some of you may recall that it was the day before Mother's Day, and my very own 85-year-old mother, who I'm so grateful that she's here in the audience tonight, she and my sister were having to escape from a shooting at a restaurant. So when I talk about crime and public safety, it's very much front of mind for me as I run for mayor. And as far as being forgotten, as I've gone around and spoken to neighborhood associations who tell me they feel forgotten, one community leader in Southeast Memphis, she says, we don't even have a splash pad at our community center, let alone any sort of real investment in our community. They're feeling forgotten when they look at what's happening in downtown Memphis. They don't see that sort of growth in their neighborhoods and their communities. And finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room that we're all dealing with, blight. It is literally in every corner of this city. Everywhere you look, there's tree limbs stacked up on sidewalks, furniture that gets put there because of the tree limbs that haven't been picked up. And then, of course, that attracts crime. We have to address all of that. So what are we going to do about it? On my website, michelleformemphis.com, I have my platform called Whole City Memphis. And that's where I explain how we can feel safe, how we can feel heard, how we can feel seen. And as mayor, I want to bring the whole city to the table to share how we can fix these problems. I will lead the city government in partnership with all of our community stakeholders to fight for a better Memphis. I will be a mayor who works for all of Memphis to help us believe bigger. As a mother of 4 children, my husband of 29 years, this is very much personal to me. This is my hometown, and I'm going to fight for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKissick. Mr. J.W. Gibson.
Thank you very much. Good evening. It is so great to be in the house of the Lord again. It's been a while since I've been in the Boulevard. It is good to be here again. And here on my birthday, I'm excited about that. I am J.W. Gibson. Today is my birthday. I turned 61. And I'm happy to be with you guys on my birthday, but it's very, very important occasion. I am a native Memphian, born in Dixie Homes Housing Project, raised in South Memphis. I am a veteran, an owner of diverse businesses, philanthropist, as well as a former county commissioner. I honestly believe that my unique background makes me ready to serve as the next leader of Memphis, to take us to a higher place, to be able to be that individual that provide opportunities for those who feel as if they've been overlooked. Today, we will talk about very important issues that are prevalent to the community as a whole. I am so grateful that you're here to hear our response to those issues. And after this is over with, I hope I have an opportunity to actually talk with you one-on-one in the meeting and reception room. Thank you for being here. God bless you. I love you. So do God.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. James Harvey.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all of you. My name is James Harvey. I am a native Memphian, born and raised here in Memphis. Currently, I am the father of one son, James Harvey Jr. Many of you might have heard of James Harvey Jr. He's a very successful young businessman raised by his mother and I. And I have two adopted boys that I have noted as my grandsons. These boys are not my bloodline, but I've taken on the service responsibility of taking care of them in order to keep them from being a traditional statistic. I am a professional in business. I've been in business for over 35 years. I have employers that I've been employing for over decades in business as an owner. Currently, I am a HR administrator for FedEx Express. Former county commissioner, serving 8 years, and I want to be able to bring forth experienced leadership to Memphis. I believe experience matters. I have managed in more than 20 different states with a cultural experience from people from all over the country. I think that would be a very huge benefit in being able to assist Memphis with making very good decisions with employment, training, policing, and all of the other responsibilities required for city leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. You have met our candidates and heard their introductions. Now we will have what is called our lightning round. As a reminder, I'm going to ask a series of questions, and each candidate will respond yes or no on the question, and you will be able to see where they stand on that issue. Again, they will not verbally respond, and if they want to explain their answer, they will have a chance to do that. They can use their time during the question and answer phase of this meet and greet. Our first question tonight: if you determine you can't win, will you withdraw from the race before ballots are printed? This is our candidate's response. Thank you. The next question: do you support a juvenile curfew? Thank you, candidates. Will you advocate for a livable wage of $15 or more per hour for all wage positions? Thank you. Do you support decriminalizing marijuana? Thank you. Do you support a sales tax increase? Thank you. Do you support a property tax increase? Thank you, candidates. Do you support increasing the police force to 2,000 officers? Thank you. Do you support law enforcement not living in Memphis? Thank you. And our final lightning round question. Will you restructure tax incentives to rich investors and developers to ensure underserved communities benefit from investment?
What's your question?
Will you restructure tax incentives, restructure them to rich investors and developers to ensure underserved communities benefit from investment? Thank you. That was our lightning round. We hope you have some answers there on where candidates stand on some of the issues. Before we move into our 1-minute question and answer, where the candidates will have 1 minute, we were told that there was maybe possibly a candidate who was arriving a little late. This is the opportunity for any candidates to come forward and be allowed on the stage. After we begin the Q&A, no one will be allowed. So are there any candidates that did arrive? Okay. We will move now into our Q&A. Again, the candidates will have 1 minute during this Q&A to respond. And we will go in the order that they were seated, with the first question, and then the second person will have the opportunity to respond to the second question first. But everyone will respond to the same question. We will begin in our category of youth, and we know how much we see going on with our youth today. We began with Mr. Paul Young, but this will be asked of every candidate. What will you do to help our youth become successful?
So right now, Memphis and Shelby County Schools invest in our young people from 7 to 3. They work with our young people every day. What I believe the city should do is ensure that we're bringing a stronger child to their classroom. Because what's happening right now is our teachers are struggling with students that are dealing with so many circumstances that are outside the realm of control of Memphis and Shelby County Schools. My goal as mayor is to make the investments that are going to support those young people, partner with our churches, partner with the nonprofits. I participated in a program called My Brother's Keeper at Havenview Middle School, where they work with these young people all throughout the year. At the end of the year, the teacher stood up and said, "I don't know what you did in this classroom, but this young man is not the same." The young man stood up and he said that the reason I changed my life is because Mr. Harris, the man that was working with, Mr. Harris was here every day. He was consistent. We have to invest in that consistency for our young people in our communities.
Thank you, Mr. Young. And we do have some candidates that are joining us now.
Everybody.
How you doing, sir? How you doing? Rizzo. How you doing, sir? How you doing? All right. Rizzo Hall.
Hey, man. How you doing? I don't think I need the mic. Yes, I'm moving down.
Our candidates, we are in the Q&A session, and we are asking each candidate the same question, and you will have 1 minute to respond. The question that we're asking revolves youth, and what will you do to help our youth become successful? Mr. Reggie Hall.
Thank you. Having been a community activist for over 20 years and a behavior specialist that has created several programs for the youth, my most important one being the Halls program, what I found out over the 20 years is that the problem is economics. Poverty is what's killing our youth because the city and the people aren't investing in our youth and investing in our children. That's the reason I raised my card and said that I would not tax corporations. Instead, I would implement a social justice equity plan that would invest into mental health institutions, better teachers, better schools, state-of-the-art schools, and more behavior health programs. We have to get our children compliant, and a lot of our children need to be med compliant, and we also need to provide the resources to the parents and to the community. Thank you.
Mr. Floyd Bonner, what will you do to help our youth become successful?
Thank you. The city must support our youth. We must provide services aimed at reducing chronic absenteeism, libraries, community centers, provide tutoring, mental health, and family support. We must, though, hold parents accountable for their children. But the City of Memphis can do so many things to help parents to become better parents and to provide the needed and necessary guidance and leadership for our youth. Thank you.
Ms. Michelle McKissick, what will you do to help our youth become successful?
As a mom of 4 children and also serving on the Memphis-Shelby County School Board, where we have 110,000 students, part of the problem is the City of Memphis divested from its children. It expects them to do everything and be wonderful after they graduate from high school, but is doing absolutely nothing, or at least not enough, to invest in them while they're still in school. The Youth Services Department of the City of Memphis now services about 1,500 children a year. Like I said, we have 110,000 within our school district. We need to provide experiential learning. The City of Memphis could create a mentor corps. We have all these wonderful retired individuals to help pour into them. It can create an internship program with partnership with private sector and also just within the City of Memphis itself. They can intern in so many different departments. We need to partner with like the YMCA. Right now, there's not enough lifeguards to really have the community center pools operational. We need to be training these children to learn how to swim during the school year by busing them to various YMCAs for swim lessons and then provide them the opportunity to get those summer jobs to be lifeguards and so much more. Thank you.
J.W. Gibson, what would you do to help our youth become successful?
This is truly a question hard to answer in 1 minute. I will submit to you that there's so many things that need to be done. Going back to the days when we had amenities and wraparound programs in school that gave the kids something to do, not only in school, but after school. There's opportunities for us to collaborate. As a city mayor, it would be my position that I will create those collaborations with non-for-profit organizations throughout the community, be it Lifelines to Success, Youth Village, the list goes on and on and on. Collaboration and having that commitment to our kids is the key in multiple perspectives of succeeding for our youth.
James Harvey.
Thank you so much. I would do several things. Number one, I would promote quality education in the schools, and I would align myself with the administration of the school board so that, number one, the mayor of the city, the leader of the city, would visit schools to encourage students that they can get beyond where they are. I would make sure that there were summer jobs for students so that they have something to do when school is out. Another thing that I would do is, considering there's 110,000 students in the school system now, there's about 100,000 students that do not have GED. I would ensure through resources that we get those students at least up to GED. There's about another 22% of youth under the age 24 that have no ID. You can't earn services if you don't have the proper ID and you don't have the proper credentials in order to qualify. So that's what I would do to encourage those students.
We also have joining us candidate Brandon Price. What would you do to help our youth become successful?
It is from my understanding that no matter how good the seed is, it cannot grow in poison ground. From top to bottom, our education system has been based on making the child meet the needs of the system, a system that only teaches them to make money for other people instead of to live life for themselves. Basically, yes, that's what I have to say to that. We need to develop a lifestyle for people to actually live, not just to make money, and actually recognize the needs of the child. There's hundreds of children today in City of Memphis that go hungry. No one can think about studying without food in their stomach. We can no longer rely on nonprofits to take care of our children. We need the city to actually lead and take charge and make sure every child is fed for them to have a proper education.
Thank you. Van Turner.
Thank you. I apologize for my tardiness, but it's good to be here with y'all, and I always want to acknowledge the shepherd of this flock, Pastor Turner, and his great First Lady. I think one of the things that you have to do is reinvest in our education system. I was an attorney for the Memphis City Schools when the city pulled out of educating young people. So that ended up being a $40 million investment that was taken away from our school system. How can we expect for our children and our young people to do better and be better if we're not invested in them? Next, we need to reinvest in our community centers. That looks like aftercare programs, tutorial workshops, and other things that keep our youth learning even though school is ended. And finally, we have to address poverty, and we have to address reinvesting in our disinvested communities. If you go to a school in the suburbs and you go to one of our schools in the city, you can tell the difference. And that should not be the case. A kid growing up in South Memphis or North Memphis needs to be in a facility like they have in the suburbs.
Joe Brown.
All right, it was a horrible mistake for the city to have surrendered control of its schools to the county, and I have something in mind to restore our control. As far as programs, 30 years ago, some of you I actually see out there participated in some of mine to do what we need to do for the youth. As mayor, I will be able to restore those programs, invigorate them, and move them on. If you want to see the fine details, go to my website, jjb2023.com, and you can see the plans. So we can do this. We have what is necessary to do what needs to be done. We need to stop diverting our money to outside interest and special interest and put them back as an investment in our kids.
Thank you, candidates. Our second question surrounds jobs and economics. How will you position the city to attract investment, business, and employers with higher paying jobs? We begin with Reggie Hall.
Once again, we have to invest into our youth and young adults. We have to get, we answered the question about life skills or life wage skills. And the only way to get there is for corporations to willingly invest in our youth. If we don't invest in our youth, we're not going to attract corporations, and we're not going to keep the ones that we have, because we're not going to be able to fulfill the jobs. And we're going to be left unattractive without any resources. So with that said, I want to take the Joe Biden infrastructure plan and create a system like Mosaic out of St. Louis. That's a construction program that teaches young people construction, welding, forklift driving, and the necessary skills needed for to have a livable wage. So that's the program that I want to use, private and public sector funds to grow working base. Yeah, that's it.
Floyd Bonner, how will you position the city to attract investment, business, and employers with higher paying jobs?
Memphis is ripe for an opportunity, for the opportunities here that Blue Oval has provided. We cannot miss out on those opportunities. You know, there's a TCAT center that's built right now in Bartlett. There's another one that's built in Stanton, Tennessee. These are job training programs. These programs, these buildings that the state has provided, but there are none in North Memphis or South Memphis or in the inner city. These are places that are needed. This is where these buildings need to go. And as the mayor, I would talk to the state and ask the state to provide these training opportunities for our youth inside the city. You know, we're paying well-paying jobs at Federal Express, Blue Oval. There are so many other opportunities. We cannot pass up on educating our youth.
Michelle McKissick.
As I outline in my economic vitality plan on my website, michelleformemphis.com, I talk about how there is a gap in the talent pipeline. I think there's been too much of a focus within our schools regarding every child, every day college bound. Well, not everybody's meant to go to college. So we need to shore that up with the City of Memphis partnering with Memphis-Shelby County Schools with workforce development, with certification programs. It's starting to take root again. VOTEC is on its way back, but we need some partnership with the City of Memphis to help foster that, to make that talent pipeline so when companies come to Memphis, they have the resources that they need. Something else we need to focus on is the different types of ecosystem that we provide for businesses. You know, we have an amazing health industry here with Smith & Nephew, for example. All of this is an opportunity for us to grow and to help our children become a part of that growth for the future of our city. One great example is Medical District High School, where when you get accepted into that high school and you go through a certain number of programs, you're automatically accepted into the nursing program at UT Health Sciences. So there's lots of opportunity. We just have to be creative. Thank you.
J.W. Gibson.
Thank you. This is a little something that I know about, having started 3 different businesses from scratch. Back in the day, 30 plus years ago, when I started my businesses, there was Workforce Development Network. It was a city-county organization that provided training. It doesn't provide, that type of training is no longer available on both the city and county side. We need workforce development. That's going to be the key to us being able to take advantage of not only Blue Oval, but those other opportunities that are coming through the recruiting efforts put forth by Chamber of Commerce. Workforce development is the key to it all. Early childhood education is also a component that's going to be very instrumental in getting our kids to where we want them to be.
James Harvey.
So my position on that would be attracting businesses to Memphis would be something that I'm very familiar with as well. I think when we clean up crime and or address crime, and when we start ensuring that our workforce is trained with the skill, when we ensure that mental health has been addressed, we have some things, some social issues that are taking place in our city that when investors from out of town start to consider Memphis, they look at it as a laughing stock. This is a low-paying municipality. We can dump on them, take their tax breaks, and we can move out before somebody even mention a clawback. We've got to strengthen our infrastructure of leadership and ensure when people think about Memphis from the Greater Chamber to the mayor's office, they know that this mayor will not accept low-paying jobs because this is Memphis, Tennessee, with a high poverty rate of children and a high poverty rate of adults. Thank you.
Brandon Price, how will you position the city to attract investment, business, and employers with higher paying jobs?
So that's the reason why I'm here today. It started me on my journey here. My uncle pretty much died working at one of these low-paying jobs that one of these gentlemen spoke of, FedEx. Basically, none of the workers have any rights because we're so busy carrying to these investors. Like, it makes me want to ask the question, what does this investor even mean? Is it actually putting investments, time and energy in building up the people, or is there another way of colonizing them, taking them away from their families, taking them away from things that they can do to like help better and take care of their family or raise their family? We need people to actually take the minimum wage seriously. $15 ain't even enough. Based on the rate of production, minimum wage should be $27.50. But nobody wants to respect that. And a lot of the people here in the city of Memphis are overworked, underpaid, and we're dying because of that. Like, they keep talking about building the workforce. It was just building more slaves to die at the workplace. So we have a huge infrastructure problem here in Memphis, and we can give jobs to the people. We did it before. It's we call the Great Depression. It built some of our national parks. We can do it again. Build some of the streets up. Build back Memphis. Give the people jobs. There you go.
Van Turner.
Thank you. If you look at the economic development and growth engine program, it is used to attract businesses here into our great city. We're having to compete against Mississippi and Arkansas now. And so we have to lean into these incentive programs and make sure that we are creating as good a package as we can create to attract businesses here. FedEx turns 50 years. So what went into bringing FedEx here and allowing it to flourish and do what it's done? Blue Oval, as already been mentioned, is a great opportunity, $6 billion. What about all the other subsidiary corporations that will feed into Blue Oval? Our young people want to be entrepreneurs. Let's help them be entrepreneurs and subsidiaries and suppliers to Blue Oval. And finally, Lemoyne-Owen College. The greatest jewel we have in this city is supporting Lemoyne-Owen College. When we allow our young people to get trained at Lemoyne-Owen, we can see the benefits of that. When you look to Atlanta, you see what's done, what the HBCUs have done for Atlanta. Thank you very much.
Joe Brown.
Judge Brown worked hard to get that title, and that reflects positively on everybody out here. Judge Brown, that's official title courtesy of Tennessee. Now, I don't need the money, so everything I bring in this city is going to you, the people. I have plans and connections all around this country and the world to bring in industry. This is the distribution center of the country. We also have unlimited resources for producing electric power out of this river. I've been working with some people on some modular hydroelectric generators down there that the Corps of Engineers says is okay. We talked about Lemoyne. I just hooked up with the new Dean of Admissions to expand their enrollment from 700 up massively so we can take advantage of what's going on here. This is supposed to be the entry point for traffic from Europe and Asia by a number of means instead of the Eastern Seaboard. When we bring the energy in, we can get factories. I'm working with the street gangs right now to start brokering public peace so it'll be a safe place to be. So let's move it on.
Paul Young.
All right, I think the way we grow our economy is to lean into our strengths. How many people here knew that Memphis has more black and female tech talent per capita than any city in the country? So what that means for us as a community is that if we want to recruit jobs, you have Microsoft, Google, all of these major tech companies. If you go on their website, they say they value diversity. Well, come walk it like you talk it. We have the diversity as part of our superpowers. That's who we are as a community. And at the same time, we invest in the small businesses, the lifeblood of our community. I work with a lot of contractors. You may have some carpenters who may be the best carpenter in the city, but they're not the best CFO, not the best HR manager. So when it comes to being able to do the things to grow their business, they're limited. We can establish entities that can support those back office functions so that those small businesses can grow. Imagine if we had 100 small businesses, just add 10 jobs. That's 1,000 new jobs in our community, and we do it from the ground up. That's my plan for this city.
We ask that you hold your applause. Our next question regards quality of life. Last week, 4 poor black babies died in the fire trap they called home. We remember that story, that tragedy. What strategies will you employ to ensure landlords only rent inhabitable properties? Mr. Bonner.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that was a tragedy that we saw last week in our city. First of all, the city needs to work with all of its partners, code enforcement, the police department, all that will put the pressure on slumlords not to allow this type of housing in our city. There are so many things that we can do, so many ways that we can put pressure on slumlords, getting the city attorney involved in this, getting them to prosecute slumlords. We need to have a better way of housing our poor and our unfortunate people in Memphis.
Ms. McKissick?
We need to bring back the landlord registry. It's banned here in Tennessee, so we have some work to do in Nashville. They allow it in Nashville, the city, Metro Nashville, but the lawmakers on Capitol Hill don't allow that for Memphis. If we can track who are these out-of-town landlords, because the majority of them are the corporate landlords, are the ones that are causing the problems. I drove by the apartment building where those 4 babies lost their lives. It was heart-wrenching. Heart-wrenching to see that it was because of poor wiring, because no one was double-checking. So that's one of the things that we have to do, is we have to crack down and implement these fines. And just like if you don't pay your taxes on your home, and eventually your home will be taken from you, the same sort of thing needs to apply to these landlords. Then also becoming a homeowner. There are so many people who are renters who don't realize for what they're paying in rent that they could become a homeowner. We have to increase education and access to that. The City of Memphis website, it needs some work. But if you could go there and actually find those resources and link up, you could become a homeowner. Thank you.
Mr. Gibson?
My heart goes out to the family of those 4. We have an opportunity to do more in support of the register that was just mentioned. It's going to require that we come together as a community and as a government to really approach Nashville legislators to gain that respect and that opportunity to create the legislation on a local level that will put more responsibilities on the slumlord. I salute the city council members who are working diligently to try to put that law back in order. I salute the park division who's working hard to make that happen. It's going to require working together, a collaborated effort between the departments within city government to put these regulations in place and hold landlords responsible. Again, we're going to need the support of our legislators in Nashville to put teeth to these programs, but it can be done. With the support of the mayor's office and city council working together, we can get it done.
James Harvey.
As an investor of commercial property and residential property, I think that we could really do a better job through code enforcement in ensuring that when properties are rented, they have to qualify through some type of clearing, some examination, some pre-look of the property, some inspection of the property before. Now, code enforcement does when it comes to gas and electric. They do go out and inspect before services are turned on. But the major problem beyond that is we have too many investors out of town. They have no alignment or no kindred to our local municipality, and they don't really care about the quality of the housing they rent. They care more about the revenue that's generated. So I think I would lobby to the legislators to create stiff legislation to ensure that these out-of-town investors have some accountability.
Brandon Price.
Well, The best way to get rid of a slumlord is to get rid of the job. Memphis has privatized all its public housing services through the program called Section 8. Originally, we were Section 9, where it went based on your paycheck, on how much you got paid to how much rent you were paid. We need to return public housing to the people and bring it back to the public. The court decisions and eviction decisions that happen right here in Memphis, they are used as examples for the rest of the country. We are already leading in a big experiment to privatize all housing. If we actually brought it back to the public, we can have better regulation over this housing and actually build something more integrated with the community, have the community more instantly integrated. Thank you.
Mr. Turner? Mr. Turner?
Thank you. Again, our hearts go out to the family and to those beautiful young people who lost their lives, and we can only continue to pray for the family. We already have the laws in place. It's called URUTA, the Uniform Residential Landlord Tenant Act. It just has to be enforced. There are laws on the books which prevent and which should disallow slumlords from being able to do what they have been able to do here in this city. So we have to enforce the Residential Landlord Tenant Act. Tenants have rights and they should be educated, and the city attorney's office should do more to educate tenants as far as their rights are concerned. Finally, it's a poverty issue. We understand that this connection to the house was not supposed to be there, but that's all they could do to provide heat and air for the young people in that home. So it's poverty. We have to make sure that we're addressing the underlying cause of most issues here in this city, and that's poverty. If we address that, we'll be able to resolve many, many issues here in this city, including the issue that we just saw, which led to the death of these young people. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
One of the main problems is too many of the elected and appointed officials in this town are getting money under the table or through side sources. So it needs to be a thing where everything goes to the people, and we need to stop getting these deals cut where people get favored treatment that nobody else gets. We need a coherent city development plan. We need transparency. We need to deal with making our money go back to the people, and there needs to be a calculus so that the people get what they put into it, rather than somebody getting side deals and little cockamamie schemes where money gets spent on development projects that the people get nothing out of. The potholes need to be filled. The trash needs to be picked up. We need some code enforcement. We need some rules. We need to stick by them, and the people that run the place need to set an example for the rest of the citizens that live here.
Mr. Young.
I want to give my condolences to the family of those young people that were lost. It was a very tragic situation, and far too many people are living in similar circumstances. I often tell people that affordable housing is not our biggest challenge in our community. The biggest challenge is quality affordable housing, housing that's fit for human habitation. There are so many people that are, and recent numbers showed that we have a deficit of 38,000 quality affordable housing units in our region. During my time as housing director for this city, I worked to try to mitigate those challenges. We set up the city's first housing trust fund. The city has never had one before. We established that housing trust fund to invest in quality affordable housing units. We need to take it a step further. There are about 8,000 people that have Section 8 vouchers in our community, but we have another 8,000 people on the waiting list. As a city, we shouldn't just rely on the federal government. We should establish our own programs to provide rental subsidies so that people can have the quality housing that they deserve.
Mr. Hall.
25% of our citizens, over 150,000 of us, live in poverty. That's the reason that we have slumlords. Anywhere there's poverty, people can take advantage of those that don't have. This is the issue. We have to invest in our people. We have to invest in education, financial literacy. We also have to invest in the resources that we need. Well, actually, we need to get the resources that we need so we can build our base and bring in money. I'm sorry, I'm sucking right now. let me calm down. We need to educate our people to not be renters, to become homeowners. But the first thing we need to do is to change the mindset. And that starts with, if any of our people are having mental health problems, or if they're illiterate, we need to bring literacy back. Until we do that, people are gonna always take advantage of the poor and the weak. And it's up to us that know a little something and that have a little something to reinvest in our fellow human being. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question, a report from the Initiative for a Competitive Inner City, also known as ICIC, places Memphis's under-resourced communities in the bottom 10% out of 450 cities. Tell us, how will you address economic disparities in underserved neighborhoods? Ms. McKissick.
I think some of the evidence of that is what's happening downtown. We want to see a wonderful, robust downtown, but there's no growth and investment that's happening in our neighborhoods. Whether that's North Memphis, South Memphis, Frazier, it's just simply not taking place at the degree in which it's happening downtown. It's been 20 or 30 years since there's been any new development in those areas of our community. So that is part of it. And also investing in small business. That is the lifeblood of communities, because small businesses are more likely to hire people from within the community than corporations, which often bring in people from out of the city. So it's a matter of balancing. If we're giving tax breaks to all these corporate entities that are coming in, why can't we provide that sort of support for small businesses and for entrepreneurs who are right here in the city of Memphis? Thank you.
Mr. Gibson.
This is something I know a little about as well. One of my companies is Real Estate Development Corporation, and we have tried to reallocate the funds. Ms. McKissick is right on target when she talks about the dollars being expended downtown. But imagine if we were to take some of those funds that are being utilized downtown in South Main area and spread that a little bit to the south, to Crump, to South Memphis. I tried to create a TIF 2 years ago that will allow for the funds coming off of the pilot program that helped to build South Bluff and South Main. That's rolling off the pallet in another year to be allocated to the South Memphis area through this TIF designation. That would have allowed for infrastructure to be built, new housing, as well as economic development creation within that South Memphis area. Those are the type of opportunities that we have awaiting us for leadership that has that creative vision to get the job done and not get caught up in petty politics.
Thank you so much. My approach to this would be, we get about $7 billion a year in the city of Memphis of nonprofit funds, and it's spread anywhere from youth development to animals to hospitals, educations, etc. I've noticed when I ride downtown from Bill Street to a lot of the surrounding areas, there's a lot of vacant property there. And I think the question lends to, how do we increase economic development based on the real estate that we have sitting? And that's when we will go back and stress the incentives of our small business commissions, our minority business associations, and even with our schools. We've got to consistently work on increasing the level of skills training for people that will take the risk to go in business and be available to work in business other people purchase, and expect for investors holistically to invest in the infrastructure that will increase our values as a workforce.
Brandon Price.
There's that word again, investment. Everybody keeps repeating it, but nobody wants to say the elephant in the room. What about reparations? Why not give the money directly to the people? Why does it have to be funneled through a nonprofit or corporation or association in any form or fashion? If Memphis is the distribution capital of America, then we should be paid like it. Like, we live through poverty, we live through crime, we live through pollution. The people should get paid at the bare minimum a monthly stipend to live in this city. Like, it's doable, it's possible, it's been done. We keep ignoring it because we try and build more business, build more masters for people to work for, more hoops to jump through. The people are tired. The people are exhausted. Give the property back directly to the people and the citizens of Memphis. Give the money directly to the people. I'm not saying one or the other. I'm saying all of that. Thank you.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you. I think what we have to do is look at what has worked for the other businesses that have come to this city and utilize some of the incentive packages and take that example and use it in the areas in which there's been disinvestment. So what does that look like? When a company comes to town, they get a tax deferment, they have to hire so many individuals locally. They have to hire so many individuals who've been ex-offenders. They have to hire so many individuals based on the Minority Women Business Enterprise Program. When you take those kinds of initiatives and you drill down to smaller businesses in disinvested communities, I think you can see a change. And I think that's what we need to do. We've seen it work on a larger scale. Let's drill it down and allow it to work on a smaller scale. And there are examples that we can use to do this, and I think we just have to follow those examples and utilize what's already in our toolbox to make sure that we're incentivizing growth and entrepreneurship in our disinvested communities.
Mr. Brown.
Memphis actually has a lot of money, but we give it away. The small businessman and woman, the middle class, we get nothing. But we're giving away almost $250 million to an international hotel chain to improve their downtown skyline. We're committed to spending almost $750 million to turning the football stadium into a soccer arena. We gave away 25 acres of downtown property centered on that bus depot downtown and committed another $250 million to helping out somebody get some luxury units. We're giving our money away. It belongs to us. We do not need to finance another big business building an enterprise where we get a small percent that comes back to us that gets zeroed out when their accountants get through. We're getting ripped off, and too many of the people in charge are getting something under the table from it or in ways that we don't see, but we need to get declarations and we need to get the money back. We need to invest the money in ourselves.
Mr. Young.
Yeah, the disinvestment that we've seen in our neighborhoods came from strategic decisions that were made many years ago. Back in 1981, the City of Memphis approved Vision 2000, which said we wanted to grow bigger. And we grew bigger geographically, but the same number of people lived in our community. And there were people that were moving from the heart of our community, North Memphis, South Memphis, Orange Mound, and move further and further east. In order to reverse that trend, what we must do now is make strategic investments in the core of our city neighborhoods. Just like downtown is the living room for our whole region, it doesn't thrive unless our downtown thrives. The same premise applies in each neighborhood. If you go to Orange Mound, it's Park Avenue. If you go to Hickory Hill, it's the intersection of Winchester and Hickory Hill. Let's make strategic investment in the heartbeat of each community, and that's going to change the narrative for all of our neighborhoods.
Mr. Hall.
I want to say that I'm not the poor people's mayor. I don't believe in keeping our people in poverty. The investment should be in the people, not just infrastructure or buildings. We need to invest in our people. Like Paul said, the statistics say that per capita, we have people leading in technology. In per capita, Memphis is leading the nation in small black businesses. That means we have the work equity. That means that we have the people that want to get up and do the job, but we're not connecting because something in the middle, and I guess that's the bureaucracy that's keeping the people with the money away from the sweat equity. Let's teach our people how to fish. Now, either we all eat hot dogs or we all eat steak. I'm not here to separate myself from the rest of the people or the rest of the flock. I don't want to depend on big corporations or the government. Let's shrink government, let's build community, let's invest in one another and love each other and be each other's keeper. Thank you.
Mr. Bonner.
Thank you. We must invest in all of our communities. As we look at our communities downtown and see our businesses struggling, our small businesses struggling. My wife, who is a small business owner, who does business with different entities and has to wait for 2 and 3 months before she gets paid and get any money or receive any money. So when you start looking at the investment capital of what's going on here in our city, yes, we do go downtown, but yes, we also got to go out in South Memphis, in North Memphis, and provide those opportunities for all our citizens.
Thank you. This next question asks for specifics. What will you do to ensure every Memphian can afford a quality place to live? And we began with Mr. Gibson.
I don't know how you guarantee that. I will submit to you that as a non-for-profit community development corporation who has been about the business since 1998 of creating housing that's affordable, and affordable truly is a relative statement. However, through collaborations, providing those livable homes that are affordable can occur. We need to bring to the table the funds that are coming from federal government. We need to bring to the table funds that are coming from state and local funds. Through collaborations, we can create that opportunity for new development in a compatible, productive way in North Memphis, South Memphis, downtown, throughout the city. Sharing of some of those subsidy programs that are available in downtown into the South Memphis area is a reality that can be had. We need to be about doing that. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to be about it. Some of these individuals have been in here 20 years, and it hadn't happened yet. Let's be about doing the work instead of just talking about it. It can be done.
Mr. Harvey.
So my plan would be, in order to incentivize home ownership, actually, I would have a call to action with banks and other funders in order that we can understand the programs necessary for people to qualify for lending. Also, with those lending opportunities, there's always some government assistance that you can align with those bankable individuals that you're trying to incentivize so that they can become personal homeowners. So I would do it two-tier. I will have one plan for homeowners that are ready to actually invest on their own, and then I will have I will incentivize an opportunity for investors and community development corporations to also make purchases and allow homeowners, future homeowners, to purchase through special lending programs through their companies that we incentivize them to create on their behalf.
Mr. Price.
Dismiss. And the key is to stop treating housing like it's a business. Y'all been treating it like it's a business since the Reagan era, and it's created more poverty than any time in human history. We need to stop treating it like it's a business. Give the land, give the funding directly to the people. For people who have a rundown housing or come down to rundown housing and they repair, we should give them cash incentives for that repairment, because every repaired, fixed, broken home is an investment in our city. That's what it is. We need to start investing in the people directly by giving them funding to fix up their homes. Give them incentive to keep it fixed. We can't keep treating this like it's a business. People's lives are at stake. Shame on y'all for shame on the people to keep treating it as such. Lives are in jeopardy as we speak now. So please, we're at the fall of the American empire. We need to stop doing it as an empire. We need to start actually treating the community like it's a community. Stop treating it like a business.
Mr. Turner.
So I think that when you look at this issue, first you have to address mental health, because some individuals are not in a position to be housed, because if you attempted to house them, they would leave the very next day. So mental health is an important issue that we have to address with making sure that there's affordable housing and that individuals are in a condition to accept the affordable housing. Next, we have to have transitional housing, because They're individuals who've lost jobs, and they're right at the cusp of being able to get back on their feet, so they need transitional housing. And we need to make sure that our veterans and those who have served have appropriate veterans, housing for veterans. And so I would lean into our churches. If we know anything about Memphis, there is a church in every community, and if we lean into assisting churches become CDCs and being able to buy up the property around those churches, and they provide this temporary transitional housing, I think we can see something that's powerful, and we will have a good partnership to address this situation. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Everything that's being discussed, I've already done 30-some years ago, put it in place. It was operational. I retired more than 20 years ago from that, and it went downhill, but I can put it back in place. Banks can have accounts up to a certain extent that's backed up by a certain percentage of cash on deposit. This city put all of its money in First Tennessee. It's now First Horizon, which is a Canadian bank. We need to redistribute the city's deposits to put them in other banks to be able to finance credit unions that the churches participate in, so that mortgages can be extended, so that you have a situation where entry-level housing purchasers can get something below the current 6.5% to 7.5% mortgage rates that are out there, which are ruinous. People can't move up to a secondary house because of the same high mortgage rates. We need to do something with the city's money to facilitate bringing that level of interest down so that people can afford houses. Also, to get lines of credit and business loans so they can set up small businesses. All of this has been done. I've done it. I want to do it again.
Mr. Young.
Yeah, I think we have to invest in affordable housing units through the nonprofits that are out here doing the work throughout our community. We have to create additional rental support programs similar to what I talked about earlier. We have to not only rely on the federal government, but we have to establish those programs ourselves. And most importantly, we have to realize that affordability is relative. It's relative to how much income is in your pockets. And so what we also must do is focus on growing wages in our community. If you earn more, you can pay for more. And we can't build our way out of this challenge that we have. Sticks and bricks cost the same no matter what the rent is. It's going to cost the same to build it. And so we have to have some additional programs. Lastly, I would say we have to invest deeply in the safety net support systems, like what we set up during COVID, where we established the eviction settlement fund, where we put attorneys with individuals who were going through eviction so that they could be represented when they go to court. Those are the types of things that we must deeply invest in to support the people of our community.
Mr. Hall.
Once again, we have to shrink government and end our dependency on the welfare system. That's the biggest problem. We have to get our people off of the welfare system. We have to get them out of Section 8 and out of the projects. And that comes to the community. That comes to all of us. That comes down to all of us. Investing in our people, investing love and time in our own resources. We can no longer depend on the government. The reason that they aren't financially literate is because they're dependent on the government, especially people who supposed to look like us, who's supposed to teach us how to get out of the hole. They aren't doing it. Let's shrink government. Let's get our people off of welfare, because if our people on welfare, that means Uncle Sam is raising our children, feeding our children, clothing our children, housing our children. So when they become adults, what do you think they're going to do with our children? They're going to lock them up. They're going to have high chances of death. The death rate is going to go up. These are the things that happens when you depend on the government and depend on welfare. Let's help our people, please.
Mr. Bonner.
Yes, we must prop up our neighborhoods with bold and groundbreaking solutions. We must also provide a safety net for our seniors. You know, when we create generational wealth, these homes that our grandparents and our parents have, we're losing those homes to taxes. We must keep those homes in our neighborhoods and revitalize our neighborhoods.
Ms. McKissick.
As part of my affordable housing and community development plan, which you can find on my website, michellemfrommemphis.com, as a part of the whole City of Memphis plan, some of the innovative ideas that we can do is to reduce the cost to develop affordable housing by waiving fees. That's a big part of it for small developers, that they can have affordable housing buildings, fast-track zoning, and building approvals so that affordable housing gets to the front of the line in terms of approving these sorts of plans. Another idea that I have on my website, transfer vacant properties facing tax foreclosure to community-based nonprofit developers who can preserve them as affordable housing. And finally, as someone who was once in a place where I really looked great on paper, but I didn't know where to go to buy my very first house, that's what we need to do more of. People who are living in apartments, they don't realize they can afford quality housing, but they may not have that traditional credit score or whatever. We need to partner them with community development corporations that look at other things besides what you look like on paper. Thank you.
We are running out of time, and we want to make sure we get to the issue of public safety. So the next question is, what strategies will you use to combat gun violence? And we begin with Mr. Harvey.
Great, that's a great subject. I like that. Former military, I managed a very successful security guard service in this city for a long time. And what I would do to mask gun violence, number one, we need legislation that addresses the type of crimes that our local municipalities are having to deal with. We have juvenile crime, we have adult crime, we have mass shootings. In order to accomplish the goal of addressing crime, you must have a very good relationship with the legislative body that establishes rules and annotated messaging that will send a message to local residents that based on certain actions or offenses that you commit, these are the consequences. I certainly support training first, but at the end of the day, we have to have strong, stiff consequences for criminal activity.
Ms. Price.
A poison seed can grow in toxic soil. Crime, gun violence, is a symptom of poverty. It's a symptom of living in a malnourished environment. We have to actually grow a better environment where people don't need to do crime. All our lives are being run by markets. We have the state legislators deregulating gun laws, and we're the victims of it. We need to actually meet that head on and actually address the question of poverty. Basically, yes. Invest in homes. Maybe fight some of the local pollution that's going on in the city that's driving up mental health issues. Right now, it's perfectly legal to spray poison in our yard that gets trapped in our water cycle and it gets rained on top of our heads. You don't think that has a connection to our mental health? That every flower is poison in our city. Everything we buy in the store is sprayed down with the same pesticides. We need regulations against these guns, regulations against these pesticides, regulations for food processes. Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you. So when you look at our state laws, that's the real culprit, and there's very little we can do locally to effectuate change at the Tennessee General Assembly. We've cried, we've marched, we protested. The Tennessee 3 got thrown out of their seats and they are back in, and yet there's no legislation. The covenant, everybody knew what happened at their school, and there was a special session, and yet the special session didn't happen. So we have to do locally what they want to do in Nashville, and we have to eliminate the reasons why our young people are getting to the guns and grabbing guns. So we have to make sure that literacy rates and that other things are being done to address conflict resolution short of violence and picking up guns. And we have to start that in our schools. And then from that standpoint, we have to ask individuals in the community to leave their guns at home. We have to have some program to do that. Most of the car break-ins are break-ins seeking weapons that are in the cars. So we have to do better about addressing that issue of guns in cars. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
I was the first black prosecutor in the history of this city, and that was almost 50 years ago. I ran the public defender's office. I've been involved with dealing with crime and its consequences longer than anybody sitting up here, bar none. I know the solutions, how to make it work. Right now, I'm in the close negotiations with the leaders of various street gangs and other criminal elements about brokering some public peace in return for job opportunities and some sanctuaries where they don't get shot. You cannot stop the influx of guns because they come in with the same shipments of drugs that the war on drugs can't stop. So it's a character issue. We have to provide people with a purpose, a cause, and some reason to become constructive members of the community. I also have a plan to put in place to get the citizenry involved in supplementing the police forces in what needs to be done to restore community order.
Mr. Young.
Yeah, I think the first thing is to realize that crime is the output. It's the output of a lot of things that have gone wrong in that individual's life, whether it's poverty or growing up in an environment where everything around you looks and tells you that you don't mean anything. It's a sense of hopelessness and desperation that we're seeing play out on our streets every day. And my plan is to do two things. One, hold people accountable. If you're committing crimes, then we must remove you from the streets. That's my job as mayor. But the second and equally important is that we have to invest in intervention and prevention. We got to identify the young people that are headed down the wrong path and show them something different to address the trauma that they're dealing with. Invest in the violence interrupters or the people in our communities that are out here doing the work for free. Because I promise y'all, there are people in every neighborhood that are working with these young people. What if we poured our resources into them? We invest now to prevent the crimes of the future. That's my plan.
Mr. Hall.
In the state of Tennessee, 82 schools are below 5%. And out of those 82 schools, over half are in Shelby County. That's the issue right there. We're not investing in our children. We're not investing in education. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but we're going to have to pull together. When has the government worked for us? So why do we expect the government to work for us now? We all can sit up here and say what we can do and what we will do, but what would you do? What would you guys do to help the community, to help the children? We have to work together. Let's shrink government. Let's teach our people how to fish, and we can do this together. That's the only way out, is to do it together.
Mr. Bonner, what strategies will you use to combat gun violence?
Yes, as stated earlier, the state has not done us a favor with the new gun laws here in the state of Tennessee. As sheriff, I've gone to Nashville and talked with the governor and state legislators about not allowing 18-year-olds to carry guns. You have to start with early intervention and prevention. You also need to look at the mental health issues. There needs to be some type of a ban on people that have mental health issues. We can look at red flag laws. We can talk about red flag laws, but we also need to talk about tougher sentencing. Those that are out there pulling the triggers, that's creating the havoc. It's a 80-20, about the 20% that's out in our streets in Memphis that's creating havoc. They must be sentenced. They must do time. They must be held accountable for what they're doing to our citizens and to our children in this city of Memphis.
Ms. McKissick?
It's imperative that we are not only tough on crime, that we are smart on crime. And that comes down to something that I call the 3 Ps. We have to have crime prevention, and that's a slower drip in terms of investing in our young people and starting not when they get to high school or middle school, but at the elementary school level and helping them to see hope and purpose for their future of their lives. Next thing, we have to partner with police. The FBI in 2021 said that here in Memphis, only 1 in 5 crimes is actually solved. Police respond to crimes, detectives solve crimes. We need to hire more detectives so that we can triage who's actually committing the crimes so that we can get at the root of the problem. And then finally, providing justice. There's just too much of a revolving door. You guys have heard about the stories in the news lately where the young man was committing one crime and then he was like taken in and he was back out on the street. Our bail reform, we have to do something about that because it's just going to be a vicious cycle that we are caught up in if we don't address this. Thank you.
Mr. Gibson.
You're going to hear me continue to talk about collaborations. Throughout this campaign, it's going to be collaborations, collaborations. Unless we start to work together as a community, instead of pointing fingers, we're not going to get anywhere in addressing these true issues that is troubling in our community. This particular issue around crime starts at an early age. We truly do have to get involved with the child's life at an early age and become that role model, if you will, for kids as they go through early childhood education, elementary school, junior high, high school, and so on and so forth. Through collaborations, there are enough non-for-profit organizations who have wraparound programs to address mental issues, homeless issues, and the list goes on. Those organizations are out there, but they're working in silo. One of the things that I think the mayor could do is use his influence to bring those organizations together to work collaboratively to address the issues as a whole.
Thank you, candidates. Because our session will end at 8 o'clock, we want to leave enough time for our candidates to give closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give their closing statements, and we will do the reverse order of the opening statements. So we will begin with Mr. Brown.
It's awful hard to lay out a coherent program in 1 minute at a time. You can't do it. That's why I say go to my site, JJB 2023. Most of what they're talking about up here I've already done 30, 25, 27 years ago, and it works. I know how to do it. I'll issue a challenge to everybody up here to exhibit their leadership capacity. That is, follow me down into the hoods of this city and see if you can get out without harm being done to you. In other words, you got to be able to deal with everybody in this city, so I can go places nobody up here can go, and I can grab folk by the collar and say, hey, what are you doing? This is Judge Joe Brown. Oh, Unc, what do you want us to do? Well, you got to stop this. And I get results, and I've always gotten results because I know how to do it. This is something that we all need to understand. Go to this website, followthemoney.org. Followthemoney.org. Do not Google it, just enter it into your browser, go directly there. Click the X at the top to get the merger thing off and find out what all of these people up here have been getting in terms of campaign contributions, from who, and you will see who you're really voting for if you vote for them. I'm the only one up here that is not owned by anybody. I belong to you, your grandparents, your children, and I want to make this place safe. And when I was on the bench over a 10-year period, the statewide criminal recidivism rate was 80%. I dropped it down to 18 in my courtroom, and I can do that again and drop it down to 10. I've got promises from the gangsters that if I'm in delivering hope to them, they will cut down on the street crime and make this a safer place. And nobody up here can say that. I also know all of the people around this country that can bring industry in here. I will bring it in. I always do what I say I'm going to do.
I beg to differ.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you. Since we're in the house of God, I'll take us to Scripture. Ezekiel 37 talks about dry bones in the valley. And we are yet in the valley of the Mississippi, on the banks of the Mississippi River in Memphis, Tennessee. But if you know Scripture, you know that there was a breath from God. And when the bones received that breath, they yet had life again. So we need fresh air. We need a new breath of vibrancy and revitalization in this community. We can't go back. We must go forward. And so what we're looking at is the opportunity to set in place what our future will look like for the next 20 or 30 years. We need a new breath. the dry bones of Memphis can live again. We can be the city that we were meant to be. We see despair and we see lack and we see all those things that seem to hold us back day in and day out. But this is our opportunity to change that. This is our opportunity to breathe new life into our great community. I tell this story, and my wife and my daughter are here. When I was 14 at Havenview Junior High School on October 23rd, 1989, I wrote Tammy a note and asked her would she go with me. She circled yes. And she passed that note back to me in biology class, and she circled yes to being my lady, and now she's my wife, all these years later. I'm gonna pass you a note on October 5, and I'm asking you to circle yes for Van Turner. I'm asking you to circle yes for revitalization and for new life in this community. I'm asking you to circle yes to your bright, bright future here in this community. We can do it. Our best days are ahead of us. If we come together, we can be the city that we know that we can be. Thank you very much.
Ms. Price.
Here today in Memphis, we are sitting at a crossroads between liberation and total imprisonment. Imprisonment to what? Corporate interests, zealotry, authoritarianism, and just outright right-wing ideology, you know, even amongst our Democratic Party, so-called. We here have to make a choice to stop treating everything as though it's a business and actually let love lead our city and actually do what's right for the people of our city. We have opportunities to actually bring things into our city to like revigorate it, to actually give people a chance to live. We need actual programs and not just big catchphrases or things like that. We need to make public housing public again. As it stands now, is privatized. It only has the appearance of being public. We need to actually invest in improving our environment for the sake of our health, mentally and physically and spiritually. We actually need to see the reality that we're living in here today in America. And right now, the city of Memphis, the people of Memphis are old. Whether you want to like that phrase or terminology or not, we are old. We have been investing. Like they like to use this word, investing. We invest with our bodies, our minds, our souls, our blood, our sweat, our tears on a daily basis since the end of slavery. We have. Why do we need to give any more when none's getting back to us? It's time for the people to collect the debt that is owed to them today. No more investments, no more corporations, no more idolatry or whatever. No more speaking from a stand of authoritarianism. We need to actually bring some form of socialized medicine to our city. We need to actually invest in the health. We need to actually do things for the people instead of relying on businesses and corporations and medias and outlets and all these things. Let's stand together, Memphis. Let's walk towards liberation. Let's be free.
Mr. Harvey.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed the evening and sharing my comments with you. If you would elect James Harvey for mayor on October 5th, I pledge to do several things on your behalf. Number one, I pledge to support and ban assault weapons for our city. I pledge to support gun reform. Now, before some of you get excited, I'm not saying taking away your guns, but we do need gun reform. What happens in Middle Tennessee with the state legislation and East Tennessee as it relates to guns don't work for West Tennessee. We must have some reforms if we're ever going to deal with crime. I pledge to support stiff legislation for road rage. I pledge to support stiff legislation and penalties for these youth that are performing these donuts, putting our citizens at risk, stopping traffic, and creating havoc on our highways and roadways. I pledge to support the full complement of police officers. I believe in covert operations, undercover operations, drones, and any other technology that will allow us to better address crimes. I will not support the no bail. I will lobby to support against the no bail policy. If you commit the crime, you should have to face circumstances for that crime. And lastly, I believe that if we connect all of our assets functionally, as a local state government, community organizations, local schools, administrations, faith-based organizations, along with you, the community, I think we can then have a safe, clean, vibrant city to pass along to our children and families so they will be able to live well and survive in this consistent, evolving, diverse community in our world. Vote James Harvey, October 5th.
Mr. Gibson.
Thank you very much to the organizers who put this event together today. To those who are out in the audience, Memphis is in trouble. We are in serious trouble. I am so happy to see that you care enough to show up today to hear these 1 minute, 2 minutes, quick spin responses. The reality is that unless you get involved, and there does need to be involvement coming from the government, there needs to be a collaborative effort put forth by our local government and you, the people, to make Memphis all that it possibly can be. We got communities that are looking like third world countries. We have youth that have no hope whatsoever. We have adults who feel like they've done all that they could possibly do, but the opportunity still has not prevailed to them. I have lived that life. I've overcome that life. It's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to be about it. We can do the work that can bring a better life for the citizens of Memphis if we do it together. Let's end this divide. Let's end this working out of a silo. Let's end the hype about what could be. Let's start bringing people to the table that have done the work. And there are people who have done the work in this community that we can bring together to make a better life for us all. The divide, petty politics that happens in Memphis needs to end. We got politicians who've been in this position for a long time. We got bureaucrats who've been in their position for a long time. They talk a good game, but the work hadn't got done. It's about time that we do the work, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Go to my site, J.W. Gibson for Mayor. There are 6 positions that we talk about, from crime to housing to economic development, workforce development, infrastructure improvement, and early childhood education. Together, we can do this. Thank you.
Ms. McKissick.
Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you for those who are watching online. I am Michelle McKissick, and I am running to be the next mayor of Memphis. We're at a critical time in our city. People are afraid to even walk out their door. Like I said, crime has hit my family personally, and I'm sure for many of you, you can talk about it firsthand. The next administration will have a dramatic impact on the future of our city. We need a mayor who is experienced, someone who always chooses Memphis and has chosen Memphis and is willing to shake up the status quo. That's what we need, and I am that mayor. People are continually seeking out my experience and leadership. I serve on the Memphis Shelby County Schools Board. I serve on the MATA Board. I serve on the Memphis River Parks Board. I served on the Memphis Brooks Museum of Art Board. I serve on the Memphis Symphony Orchestra Board. I serve on national and state level education boards because they are seeking my experiences as a leader. I will bring that experience to the mayor's office. And I just want to point out that Memphis is my hometown. Born and raised here, grew up in Cherokee, a neighborhood next to South Memphis, or near adjacent to South Memphis in Orange Mound. And I chose here. My kids went to public schools here. I brought my husband here. We've been married 29 years. We have been believing in Memphis for a long time. I worked in Memphis as a news anchor for many years with Ms. Thompson, as a matter of fact, starting out at Channel 3. And I just believe in this city with everything in me. I guess the last thing I want to share with you is that the one takeaway, if you're looking for someone who is willing and able to truly be able to make radical change, there's a phrase that I love to quote from the late, great Shirley Chisholm. who was the first African-American woman congressman. She said that I am unbought and unbossed. There is no other candidate in this race who can say that. I want you to visit my website, michellemfrommemphis.com. I'd love for you to vote for me to make history as the first woman mayor in the city's 204-year history. I'm Michelle McKissick. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Mr. Bonner.
Thank you. And again, thank all of you for coming out tonight, all of our online listeners and all of this great church and the pastor who have afforded all of us an opportunity to be here tonight. Again, my name is Floyd Bonner, and we are at a critical stage here in our city of Memphis. Crime is beyond what any of us ever thought that we would see. I have 42 years of experience in law enforcement. I'm equipped and ready right now to address those issues with crime. I'm the CAO of the largest sheriff's office in the state of Tennessee. I manage a $180 million budget. As mayor, I will make crime my #1 priority and aggressively go out and recruit more police officers, and those that threaten our community, place them in jail. We need to clean up our neighborhoods. We need to clean up our city. But most of all we need to do is to get crime under control. I believe in our city. I grew up in this city. I've lived here all my entire life. My wife Audrey and I, of 41 years, we've raised 2 sons here in the city of Memphis. They've gone through public education. I believe in what we do here in this city. As the next mayor, I promise you that you will have accessibility to me and that you will see me out in the community as you see me now in the community. I'm asking you for your vote. I'm asking you to vote for Floyd Bonner for mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Hall.
Judge Joe Brown, with all due respect, sir, I'm in the trenches with the Grinches. From Kingsgate to Apple Blossom, from Apple Blossom to Murder 8, from the Murder 8 to 7th Street, from 7th Street to the Field Saw, from Field Saw back around to South Memphis to Jazita. I'm there. I counsel. To Miss McKissick, the young man who was being shot at Tugs that night, and I hate that your mother, your beautiful mother and beautiful sister were there that night. I have counseled that young man. I've been with that young man. I've been in the trenches with that young man. It breaks my heart that it came full circle and it came to your family. But no, I'm unbought, I'm unbothered, and I won't take an insult from anyone that did something 30 years ago. With that said, you guys 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you've been hearing the same game. You heard it all. You heard all the good talk, the good walk, the fancy shoes, the fancy suits, the fancy cars, but nothing has changed because our thinking hasn't changed. It has only gotten worse. The New Deal was a raw deal that screwed us over. I can give you my word for 4 things. I would get up every day and I would pray. That's 1. And when I go to bed at night, I pray again for our city and our constituents. 2, I put on my hard hat and I work hard, extremely hard. 3, I will listen to you. And 4, I will hold myself accountable. No one is talking about holding themselves accountable. A lot of these people have been in service. They said it. They've been there 20, 30, 40 years. Where's the change? Hold yourself accountable. Please, we have to work together. We have to shrink government. We have to get our people off of welfare. And one thing I'm going to hold myself accountable for, I sucked at the beginning of this debate. I was nervous and I sucked. But I came on strong. And as you see, everybody follows me. Even the leaders follow me. The heads of the gangs follow me. I'm the only one that can organize crime at this moment because the organization and the criminals and the big gangsters, all of them are under 30 years old. We got shooters that are 11 years old. I love you guys. God bless. ReggieHallForMayor.com. Thank you.
Mr. Young.
So I've worked in community development in this city for the past 20 years. I was born and raised in this community. And as long as I've been here, I've always heard that Memphis is almost there. We're almost great. We're almost over the hump. It's time for us to get over the hump, y'all. And it's going to take leadership to do it. I've been doing the work the past 20 years. I've worked in communities across this city. There's quality housing, community facilities and programs to support businesses and people that happened because of the work that I did. I represent this next generation of leadership, a generation that the community is desperately calling for. The people in our community are hurting right now. They're asking for answers. They want somebody to hear them. I hear them. I hear their pleas, and I'm ready to go to work. I'm ready to take it to action. I'm like that J. Cole song. I'm a hip-hop fan. So he has a song called Middle Child. And in that song, he says, I'm big bro and I'm little bro all at once. I've been poured into by the older generation. I'm still connected to the younger generation. It's time for our generation to step up and lead this city because we need the change that people are desperately asking for. I don't need this job. I want this job. And there's nobody out here who's gonna work harder than me on the campaign trail or when I get the job, because I wanna create a city that my Zoe and my Paxton wanna come back and live in. I love this city. This city made me. It made all my family. We've been doing the work, and we're gonna continue to do the work. Join the team, join the momentum, youngformemphis.com.
Thank you to all of our candidates. Let's hear it for all of our candidates tonight. You've heard a lot here, and they've advised you to go to their websites. They'll have more forums like this where you can learn more about them. There is a meet and greet after this as well. And we encourage you to be an informed voter. Right now, we ask our pastor to come back up for some closing statements. Thank you, audience.
Come on, give it up for April Thompson. Come on, we can do better than that. This is a Herculean effort to keep all these candidates on course. And let's give it up for each of these candidates who made themselves available this evening. They'll be available at the meet and greet as we adjourn on this evening. I want to just draw your attention to this before we leave on tonight. There's a challenge I think I must give you. The last City of Memphis municipal election, the turnout was like 25, 26%. And so the challenge is not just to register voters, but it is for registered voters to actually turn out and vote. And so I hope that each of you would do your part in helping to get turnout so that this election is reflective of as many persons who are part of the electorate. And so remember, early voting starts on September 15th, and Election Day is October the 5th. Let's stand on our feet as we go from this place. We're grateful for the social justice ministry of Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. Will you give them a hand for organizing tonight? And again, thank you to our partners, National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Memphis chapter, Up the Vote 901, Black Clergy Collaborative of Memphis. Go in peace. God bless you and good night.